Hey everybody, this is Sam Coster from Butterscotch Shenanigans. Today I'd like to show you a little time-lapse video of the Baconweed Fairy's creation, which is one of the probably the grossest things I've ever made in my entire life. So for those of you who are familiar, I use a tool called Inkscape, which is a free vector art tool. It's the best thing on the planet so far as I'm concerned, way better than Illustrator. And you'll see that since I don't actually know how to draw stuff, there's just a lot of what I would call molding, I guess, which is taking these nodes that get drawn and then just kind of wiggling them around. This is actually in 5 times speed. This is one of the longest projects that I've done, and then it took about an hour and 25 minutes to create. And those really hideous shapes you see there are just sort of roughed in outlines of what I think this thing's going to look like. You know, I want it to have wings, you can have an ugly head, got that circle for an arm over there, and you'll see these things all kind of come to fruition here over the course of time. So what I'm doing right now is just trying to get a sort of idea of what the hell this thing looks like, which includes placing these eyeballs, experimenting with a nose, which will actually disappear shortly, and getting some of those teeth in. The original concept, the only thing I really cared about was that animation-wise, I could have a jaw that was flapping and being very gross, which is why it's hidden behind his face. So from an animation perspective, those are drawn on top of each other, and the bottom one will just kind of flap around once it's actually in game. So here I'm doing is duplicating that that piece that I had made above for the mouth to get an idea of where this, where these teeth will actually go. You'll see most of the stuff, because I don't actually sketch anything, there's a lot of sort of on-the-fly iteration that's going on. So we're slowly getting a more jowly sort of look to things. More dirt. Just putting dirt everywhere. It's very important. And you notice I'm still very bad with kind of perspective and eyes and stuff, which is why this tool is so useful, because you see these nodes that I'm putting down allow me to kind of just tweak and tweak and tweak until things actually look right. And that's really important because for me, I don't ever draw anything right the first time. And you'll see this trick I just did here with the eyes is that sometimes I get a little stuck with the shape of something. So what I'll do is I'll take what I have and just kind of flip it around, rotate it a bunch of times, and oftentimes you'll find a better shape just from doing that. Something about not having to consciously make the thing helps a lot. Got a butt chin, of course, very important. And again, just taking a lot of these parts are just taken, duplicated, and flipped around a little bit to save time, because I got a lot of stuff to draw. This game has well over 1,000 sprites in it, so we need to be very efficient with our time. And you'll see here I start try to draw a tongue in there. Doesn't really work. We'll pop that out. And you'll see me actually wiggling this jaw up and down just to see what it would look like if it's freely detached and gets to pop up and down via code. And that's important. You need to know how the animation is actually going to function when you're building the thing. It's like building a little machine. There's the little flapping. And again, you'll see lots of this sort of momentary experimentation happening there. Like just bent the eyeballs down, didn't like it, put it back. And Inkscape is so good for allowing you to just do that sort of stuff. So if you're not actually good at drawing, which I'm not, it's more like sculpting, which has a lot more freeform movement and allows you to kind of make a lot more mistakes. So I'm going to start in on other parts of the body here. So we've got this lumped in torso piece, which has just been holding kind of shape for a while. Now we're going to get in there, add some fat pieces. I just grouped the head and then put the whole thing at 50 opacity so I could see where it was, but not have it kind of in the way. Get some moobs going, very important. And you'll see I just duplicated those 2 lines there and then added one of them into the chest and then moved the line. That was very quickly allowed me to just put that left moob in without having to worry too much about perspective. Get started on the wings a little bit here. And the whole idea for someone who's playing the game is they just need to be able to know that there's some sort of wing mechanism back there. So we put this little stub in there. You'll see how it's animated shortly. Belt, everybody needs a little sort of man thong thing to hold in your parts here. Very important. And again, none of this was really sketched before. The only thing I was really keen on was getting that sort of gross jowl. That was the sort of idea. So all this other stuff is just kind of happening. Decided to go with some pig feet because, frankly, because they're easier to animate and draw. Just a little diamond shaped thing. You'll see I actually have a tremendously difficult time with perspective generally. So you'll see this thing, you'll see these legs flop back and forth a bunch while I try to figure out how the heck to make them look good without having to draw it twice, which of course is one of the things I do. Draw everything once. So tweak it a bunch, doesn't look right, wiggle around, doesn't look right, screw it, duplicate it, delete it, don't worry about it. Gotta get that man thong finished out here. See I'm grouping as I go, so each of those legs now is its own piece, the thong and bottom is its own piece, the torso is its own piece, so that way I can just handle the parts a lot better. If these were all by themselves, it would be a nightmare if I wanted to change anything, which you'll see shortly actually, right why I do that. Little tiny fingers. And again, just duplicate it, change it enough to make it so that the perspective works. And then don't worry about it. And this is going to turn into his sort of wand of power here in a second. So again, make one shape, duplicate a bunch. It's supposed to be kind of like a living root, a living rod sort of a thing. Add some dirt. Dirt's very important. And then we'll watch me fumble with this perspective here for a good moment. Again, this isn't 5 times speed, so this has taken me some time to figure out how the heck to make this thing look appropriate. And I think it gets about 80% of the way there. I think after this video is completed, I actually finished it. Add some detail lines, which gives it that classic gross butterscotchy feel. And then I just, right there, just duplicated that hand, or duplicated that arm, and then just slapped some fingers on it. Again, just a time-saving technique for everything. A lot of duplication involved in what I do. Just molding stuff around using those nodes. In Inkscape, if you just double-click using the node tool on a line, then it'll add a node there, and then you can manipulate it however you want. And I have a custom set of hotkeys I've set up with all this stuff. So you'll see, for the most part, I don't actually click on the tools on the left. Most of my work is clicking on stuff on the bottom left, which is changing stroke and stuff like that. And those are things I've got hotkeyed, but I'm still not quite on top of. So a lot of people, when they animate flight or wings, they animate the actual wing itself, in like 12 different rotations, flapping up and down. I don't have time for that, I don't think you do either. So what we're going to do instead is just animate the motion. So we animate it. It's actually just that single image back there. During the actual animation, it'll just flip back and forth, and it creates a sort of hummingbird effect. And that's all you need. You don't need more than one frame, actually, for that. Now we're going in here is doing the detail pass, so this is the shading on stuff. And shading is really where things go from looking like, kind of goofy to good, I think. And this is using a dark red shade of about 30 opacity, and then grabbing highlights from the color wheel just to make sure that things fit. And you'll see as I get going here, I notice the colors I don't quite like, so we'll go back to color palette, pick a different sort of area, and then rapidly go through and redo everything. And that's possible because Inkscape, which is why I would recommend using it. And keep in mind, if you got a bunch of layers like this, if you want to select, say, like the bottom of that mouth, all you do is hold Alt while you're clicking on something, and it'll actually cycle through the various layers that are in there. And by layers, I literally mean things that are stacked on top of each other, not actual layers within the program like Photoshop or anything else. I don't use layers because they take time, which we don't have. You'll see that entire set of highlights and shadows are grouped together so that we can easily manipulate that and move it around up until the point where it's actually done. So this head shadow just needs to be present enough such that when we bounce the head using code, you'll get a glimpse of a sort of shadowed part in there. Doesn't need to be pretty, as you can see. It kind of is just a wobbly shape, and that doesn't matter. No one's going to see it. Go through, get some, some of these fat shadows and moob shadows. Very important. And go through do the highlights. I never actually used to highlight things much until after Quadrupus Rampage, and I really enjoy the effect it has. The boss is, since this is a boss, he's bigger, he's a bit more detailed than, actually considerably more detailed than most everything else. So he's got a lot more highlight and low light work than other things in the game. But and again, those highlights are actually just, in this case, a 70 opacity, sort of yellowish color. So for most highlights and things, I don't ever use actual full opacity or 100% opaque things. I use transparencies to make sure that they actually blend in with the background a little bit. Getting the shading done on these gross feet. Now grouping everything together so we can move it easily. And the original idea is that he's going to throw teeth out of this sack. He doesn't actually do that. He just shoots teeth all over the place because it's easier for us. But the sack is there regardless. And you see a lot of this is just grouping and then drawing the shadows in the right spot. And again, the shadows are just dark red with 30 or 40 opacity, depending on how intense you want them to be. And these ones are blue. We'll go in here with the even brighter blue highlight. And that's pretty much it. Tiny bit of colored shading to finish up the wings there. And again, saving time, I'm going to just duplicate this wing, throw it on the other side. You'll see it flap there, which is exactly how the animation is going to work. And that's it.